Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I got my good friend in the whole entire world, Chloe, in my chair. You guys probably remember her from many videos back. We took her blonde. It took about 3 or 4 sessions. We did push her hair a little bit more than I would a normal client because she's a good friend of mine. This is back in like 2020 during COVID and a few months prior. She ended up going back to darker. I have videos of that. I'm going to actually put all of her videos she's done with me in the past on the card. I think we only recorded videos for YouTube when we took her blonde and then brunette. But anyway, she ended up giving in and going to box dye for the past year and a half, 2 years. So that's where we're at right now. And now today we're going to try to start one session of kicking through as much as we can and start lightening her up gradually and slowly and safely, but getting her to a decent color, not extremely light blonde, but something beautiful where she can just slowly just touch up the root and not have to do the highlights all the time. So when it comes to a first session of getting somebody lighter or having previous permanent color, demi-permanent color, box dye, does not matter. Sometimes it does, but I usually like to go in and do a full foil teasy light because that will go in and actually kick through some of the hair. I usually do a thicker stitch and I do leave bigger subsections, giving it more of that balayage kind of feel. I do that with the first session because we don't know how people are going to lift when they have box dye, permanent color of any sort, or even demi-permanent. And it's easier to veer on the safe side of caution and not go in and do a billion baby lights and open too much of the underlying pigment and expose too much of it because it could be harder to counteract. But with Chloe, this is my good friend. She's not really a regular client per se, so we want to go in and pack these foils in back to back to back as closely as possible. And this I will do half the time or a quarter of the time when it's the first session, taking somebody lighter. And it all depends on the variables and the situation, the client's hair, the history. I know Chloe's hair really well. I know how it works, so I know that we're going to lift pretty decently today. I decided I want to get a little bit more done, get a little bit more achieved. She's really cool with whatever's going to happen. She knows she used box dye and it's going to take a couple of sessions. She's not expecting the perfect final goal by any means, and it's not a regular client that I have to worry about and try to make sure it looks beautiful at all times. So we know it's going to lift pretty decently, but honestly, I don't know it's going to lift pretty decently. But I know that she's okay with whatever we get.
You call me on your bad days to make sure I cheer you up, but never on your good days. I wasn't worth that much. You told me I was special, but not enough to make you stay. I guess you couldn't settle with somebody like me. My self-esteem has reached a new all-time low. At least you accomplished something, yeah. Before you, I was doing good on my own. If only I just hadn't been so wrong.
And guys, don't mind me. I don't know if you noticed this. I sprained my ankle, my wrist last night. So there's a knot. So I'm kind of slow right now. But I'm surprised I'm even able to hold the comb. I was really worried and I have a busy week, but just wanted to throw that in there.
How can I have been so stupid, so naive? Wish I did, but little did I know. Why have I been wasting all my energy? Wish I did, but little did I know that you were gonna chase me, get me, leave me just to move on.
And I just wanted to let you guys know I did do hair for 8 days after I fell on my wrist. And come to find out, it was actually broken. What are the chances, right? And I literally had barely any pain. And I worked for 8 days. Actually, out of 8 days before I went to the hospital, from the time it happened till I actually got checked, was 8 days. But I worked 6 of those 8 days. So crazy. But, you know, I'm very determined and my business means everything to me. And it goes to show you when you're determined and you really are grinding and you love what you do, you'll do anything you can to be there and not miss anything. So we are using 20 volume with Schwarzkopf Blami. You guys know that's my go-to. Chloe doesn't like money pieces, specifically around the hairline, to be too thick, too chunky, too bright. She actually is one of the very few people, I think I have 3 clients out of everybody I've ever done in my life, that have said, no, don't make me that bright around the face. You know, it's really popular. It's just on trend right now. But when you have somebody like this, you still want to just throw a couple in there. And later on, you can go in and shadow it down with the root toner, shadow, or tap.
That I was gonna like you, love you, need you, just to end up alone. How can I have been so stupid, so naive? Wish I did, but little did I know. I can't forget goodbye. Yeah, the sound that woke me up. A text at 7:45. Yeah, saying we were done. If I could laugh now, I would laugh about it good, but it's gonna take time. To cry you out. Oh, yeah. My self-esteem has reached a new all-time low. At least you accomplished something, yeah. Before you, I was doing good on my own. If only I just hadn't been so wrong. No, 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 no. How can I have been so stupid, so naive? Wish I did, but little did I know. I've been wasting all my energy. Wish I did, but little did I know that you were gonna chase me, get me, leave me just to move on. That I was gonna like you, love you, need you, just to end up alone. How can I have been so stupid, so naive? Wish I did, but little did I know.
So we have decided to go in with a half baby light. So we're not doing the full head. I will eventually, when I work my way to the back, section a little box at the top of the back. And sometimes I like to go off on an upside down triangle, on a slant. It falls more dimensionally and nicer, which I think I will be doing, or at least a little slight slant, because we don't want it to be too solid, or solid enough where it looks like we did something, but not overly solid where it looks just like a one solid color. When I do the half highlight, I always give the option to my clients to allow the fact where we add 9 to 12 foils underneath the hairline to connect it with the money pieces in the front. Not every client wants it, but 9 times out of 10, they usually do. We're going to let her finish processing for about 45 minutes to an hour. When somebody needs it, I do let them sit longer. I just watch it very carefully, but do not be scared to let bleach sit.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, so once she processed for about 60 minutes, I then pulled all the foils, gave her a really good shampooing, and then I mixed up our root shadow formula. We are going to be using Joico Lumishine 4N only. We want there to be a nice opaque rooted look, so I'm going to go with Joico Lumishine because it's very opaque and it covers very well, even though it's demi-permanent. If I went with Shades EQ, it's a little bit more translucent. It wouldn't cover as well. And as I said earlier, she doesn't want too big of a brightness around the face, so we'll use that to power that money piece down a little bit and then bring everything back down. Of course, she's going to lift a lot better at the root area for the first few inches than she does on the ends, because you have to remember most people will bring the permanent color from roots to ends every time they redo it, which you're not supposed to do. That's a big no-no. If you're going to refresh the ends, use a demi-permanent, but when you're a regular person that's not licensed at home doing it yourself, you're just going to refresh it by running it through the ends, but realistically, they don't realize that the hair is just going to get darker and darker and darker no matter what color it is, because it's just adding on top of adding on top of adding all that permanent pigment. So I am going to be just shadowing her, but this will help bring it down because the root area should always look darker, no matter what the hair color, than the ends. I'm going to zoom in real quick right here just so you can see. It's probably a little hard because she's in the bowl, but her top lifted beautiful. She did lift pretty well. I got to give it to her. We did let her sit for a while. Schwarzkopf always comes through, and she would do like a level 2, 3, I'm guessing, because it would be a dark brown. But if you look at the ends, you can see the ends are more of that orange red. So they did hold on to that 6-ish level more so towards the ends because that's where it was overlapped more over time. And the top lifted beautifully, which sucks because the client sees that we see it and it's like we want to keep them as light as possible, but it sucks because we know that we can't have darker ends and we don't want to keep that brassiness in there.
I cheer you up, but never on your good days. I wasn't worth that much. You told me I was special, but not enough to make you stay. I guess you couldn't settle with somebody like me. My self-esteem has reached a new all-time low. At least you accomplished something, yeah. Before you, I was doing good on my own. If only
Alright, so while she's processing for about 15 minutes with that root shadow, I'm going to mix up her final global toner. We're going to do 2 cool tones and 2 warm. I'm going to do 7M, 7P, 7NB, 7GB, equal parts. We want to add a little bit of warmth in there that will keep it from going too dingy and dark. We want there to still look like there's lightness. We don't want it to look like we did nothing. And mostly, there is mostly level 7s, a little bit of 6, a little bit of 8, but I want to bring it down just a little bit. And I also did think that the 7s would do the trick, but I had to go back in after we were toning and add a little bit of a level 6 because honestly, it was not counteracting a little bit of that red orange like I thought it possibly could have. And I wanted to try the lighter formula first, but then we ended up adding the 6th level on top of it. That's a little trick you guys can always try if you want to see something and see how it counteracts first. Always do the lighter formula. You could always go and add another darker tone right on top of it. So like a smudge, I am leaving her root shadow on because we want it to actually bring that root lightness down. We want the shadow look by the length of it, 1 to 2 inches, but we also want it to be very opaque like I mentioned before, because usually for root shadows or taps, I do rinse it out before I apply the global toner. You can see I'm really checking the color on the ends and I decided, okay, it's not doing what I want it to. It looks gorgeous, but I want to bring it down just a wee bit and counteract a little bit more of that orange. So I always go with my tried and true teas in shades EQ. They're great for counteracting orange.
I did, but little did I know. I can't forget goodbye. Yeah, the sound that woke me up. A text at 7:45. Yeah, saying we were done. If I could laugh now.
You can see how much ashier those ends got. It's looking way better to me at this point, and we're getting ready to rinse. I wanted to let you guys know also that the all over toner, the global one, had been on at this point for about 10 to 15 minutes, and the root shadow was on about 15 minutes prior to us putting the global toner on. So altogether, it's been about 30 minutes. Alright guys, look how beautiful this final result is. We trimmed her up and now she's beautiful and done. Beautiful level 7-6-ish. We love the caramel vibe on her and we are very happy with how even it is. Looks scary in the bowl, but always trust the process. Whether you're a client or a stylist, I know that sometimes it can get very intimidating when you see how dark it looks, but just know, especially with Shades EQ, it always does lighten up. Trust the process. I love you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. As always, so long for now, guys. Mwah.